with leader is here.
We're here! We're here! Oh, there you are, Scott. I barely could see you. Where are you at, Scott? Your living room got fancy.
I'm not telling you. You're making fun of me. How are you doing?
Is that a new painting behind you?
Oh, yes. I'm sure it's something, but we had a little internet connection problem.
So there you are in a fancy place. All right. So one of our guests is still trying to click on and join us. So we're going to start by introducing everyone else, but we're going to go over some stuff. How's your week been?
It's going really, really well. I feel like people are finally settling in after the holiday and business is rolling. I'm seeing a lot of really positive things for our economy. And so I'm pretty excited. How's your week going?
Same thing. I mean, I'm like having to book an hour on my calendar about this because people keep trying to take that spot. I just finally blocked it out. We got some exciting news today. So first things first, if you want to always know who's we have coming on, if you want a reminder that we're going live, text right now, Drinks with Leaders. Just text my text line. It's 913-298-8790. And we will, you'll get to know all our secrets before we tell everybody right here. So pretty exciting. And one of those big secrets is, do you know what comes out next Tuesday?
Where we're teaching classes on how people make a lot of money and build brands.
It's kind of just like that. Yeah, it's our online. It's the first time either one of us has ever done this. Our online course on networking comes out next Tuesday.
Woo-hoo.
I know. I'm pretty excited about it. So we've been working hard on it for you guys. We want y'all to take our spots as the top networkers in Kansas City. So we are going to put this out there and give you all of our secrets. So pretty excited. Okay, so make sure you text. I'm kind of pausing here because I see that our guest that's not on here yet is messaging me. So I'm sure there's something going on. But let's invite our guests that are here and we'll get started. And then if he wants to join, he can join. All right, you ready for this? All right. So today, our very first guest, I think she's a national speaker. I saw her speak and fell in love with her and stalked her. And author and executive coach, Maki. Moussavi. I want to clarify that it's Maki.
Yeah, what's up with that? You can't say my name after all this time.
No, I said it, but I used to call you Maki, and you were like, "That's not my name."
No, it's true.
So, and what I admired about you is that you called me out on it. A lot of people don't call people out on it.
Yeah.
So I loved that. All right, let's keep going with ladies first. Our next guest, the queen of nonprofit, Miss Katie Lord.
Everyone.
Move it closer. We can't hear it.
It's moving closer.
Who's got the music? Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
All right. Our next guest is Mr. Bill Brandmeyer.
Hey. We're glad to be here. Hi, Aaron. Hi, Scotty.
Hello.
Hey, Lord.
Hey.
Katie, how do you like to be introduced? Because I love the queen of non-for-profit. What do you like?
I made that up. Sorry. I loved it.
I mean, I think just the Lord is good, right?
Yeah, that's good.
That's what I would personally prefer, but that one's kind of taken. So I think nonprofit works.
Yeah, no, I had drinks with the Lord of Cromwell in Northern Ireland.
See?
And I didn't realize Northern Ireland didn't get along with the rest of the country. So
No.
he asked me where Bud Light came from, and I told him I didn't know. So he's used to everything being local. But without any further ado, let's get rolling as our fourth guest pops on. Maki, it's always that elevator pitch we ask everyone in Kansas City. It's, how'd you get to KC? Tell me a little bit about yourself. So let's start with you. How did you get to Kansas City? And tell us about your business today.
Sure. So I actually grew up and was born and raised in Manhattan, just a couple of hours west of here. And because of my personality, it's my favorite thing to drop that on people because they always assume I'm talking about New York. And I'm definitely not talking about New York. So I went to K-State and then I finally got out of this area and I went to the University of Minnesota to get a master's degree in genetic counseling, like very nerdy, science specific. and then moved to Texas for a while. And when I decided I didn't like that, my husband and I decided to come to Kansas City because we had connections here and a network. And it's become home. I ended up working for a big company here for many, many years. And once I decided it was time to leave that behind, I decided to do something on my own, which is not something I ever thought I would do, honestly. And as I was kind of coming to the end of my corporate career, one of the things that I really started to ask myself was, what would I enjoy doing? And I think that's the thing that a lot of people who end up getting into like a corporate kind of high achieving, ambition driven career, what you want is usually the last thing on your mind. It's you're doing whatever you're getting paid to do, whatever, brings you the money, gets you the status, gets you to where you want to be. And I realized that even though I had all these things that I aspired to have, I was not a happy person. So it was time to think about, how was I going to do what I really wanted to do? How was I going to get out of my own way? And through that process, decided to become a coach and an executive coach, a transformational coach. And I decided to write a book about how to help people get out of their own way. So that came out last year too. And just kind of doing, all that. And I think still building my business, but I definitely see the Kansas City community as, a huge part of what supported me in getting to where I am right now.
What is the name of your book, and what do people tell you is their favorite chapter of the book?
The name of my book is called The High Achiever's Guide. It's actually never a specific chapter. I think the one thing I hear consistently is, I feel like you're inside my head. That's what almost everyone who comments to me that they've read it has said. And I think that just goes to show that so many of us are really kind of programmed to think the same way about success. And when it's time to kind of unravel that programming, we kind of have the same struggles.
So Katie, what was your...
Hey, Scott, real quick, our other guest showed up.
Well, I'm very aware.
Okay.
I've watched practice tape of Julian, so I know everything.
So Julian, Wright, you get to answer questions last because you were late.
No problem.
But I just want to make sure they all saw you pop up here. So.
Hello, everybody.
Aaron runs a type ship, Julian. So Katie, what was the name on the poster for Rock Stars that you were called? What was it called?
It was the Lord of Lincoln, KC.
There you go. I think Mike Meyer came up with that one. So Katie, I always refer to you as a force of nature, someone that if you're meeting someone in Kansas City, they always come across you. And Bill is kind of, in a lot of ways, I'm excited for you guys to follow each other, because what you guys have done in the non-for-profit community is absolutely amazing. But before we get to Bill, Katie, kind of give us your background of how you got to Kansas City.
So was brought to Kansas City because I moved around a lot, and we ended up in Kansas. So I lived in 5 states before I was 12 years old, and the last state we moved to was Kansas, and had lived on the West Coast and East Coast. My dad was in the Coast Guard, and then we ended up in Topeka, Kansas, and lived in Lawrence, which does not make sense at all. But so it was kind of, grew up most of my time in Lawrence, went to KU, so Rock Chalk, and then decided to kind of come up to Kansas City as started to kind of grow in the nonprofit sector. So really wanted to kind of transition. That's how I ended up in Kansas City. And when I came to Kansas City, it was my goal that for the first year or two, I was going to say yes to every meeting. It didn't matter who it was with. Didn't matter what it was for. It didn't matter if I could help. I was just going to say yes to absolutely everything. And I just, met some just amazing people. And it was kind of great because we all say that Kansas City is like a big, small town, but it really, really is. And people genuinely want to help you. Whereas kind of, a little bit on the East Coast, West Coast, it can be a little bit different with kind of okay, I've got 30 minutes, tell me what you want right now. Whereas people here genuinely want to get to know you, and they might not be able to help you right now, but they might be able to help you in 6 months, and they'll do it and they'll remember you. So that's kind of how I ended up in Kansas City, and have been in the nonprofit sector for over 12 years, and joined the Proof team here in September, and have just been super excited about that, being part of that team.
So pop quiz, if Grant Gooding's watching, what does Proof do?
I told him to come in here and Zoom bomb this or whatever, and he wouldn't do it.
He's been a guest on the show.
Yeah.
He knows the pressure you're under, is what I'm
Like
saying.
the original, like Drinks with Leaders. I was like, oh my goodness.
Hey, while everybody, Katie, you're getting a ton of comments here. Let us know if you're watching. I know everybody has a ton of friends watching today, but let us know if you're watching live or the replay, and let your friends know you're here. Support them. So they're saying you're a goddess. They're saying you're a goddess. And we don't deserve
that. I was like, I don't think I deserve that, but
I feel like Aaron and I are Will Ferrell and Anchorman. Anything you put up there, we'll read. So
not anything. Don't say that.
Bill, you have a long storied history in Kansas City. You've been involved in so many monumental, huge projects. But if you can really it's hard to ask you to kind of boil it down. But if you had to give your 5-6 minute elevator pitch to those people who may not know you, how'd you get to Kansas City and what do you do today?
I'm from a family of 8. I'm the youngest of the first 5 and the oldest of the last 4. So I'm right in the middle. Try to figure that one out. I am. My father worked for Marion Laboratories. Ewing Kaufman was his mentor. So I'm a Marion kid. For those of you that might know what that means, it means that Marion, when they trained their employees, they're one of the first organizations that really invested in the family and in what it meant to be connected to the community. And obviously, Ewing Kaufman, leveraged that mindset to impact our city in such an incredible way. And I've been mentored by my parents and by my brothers and sisters and kind of raised within this environment. I feel like I was born to network, being right in the middle of this big family. We all worked together as a family and built a company that was a subsidiary of Marion Laboratories. We brought a product to market in healthcare that has dramatically impacted infection prevention. And so my background is healthcare and in marketing infection prevention products. We sold the business about 10 years ago. When we did that, we were able to move forward into trying to do some things that maybe wouldn't be the smartest things to do, but might be daring and adventurous. And a lot of my family members have done different things. We've done things together, always trying to make Kansas City a better place to live, always trying to invest our time and energy and treasure into trying to make a difference. And that's what my life is really all about. And I love being connected to cool people like Scott Havens and Aaron Folk. And I'm honored to meet you, Maki. I think I could spend the whole day talking to you about what I need to be doing better. And that could be good. And Katie Lord and I have become friends over the last year and a half as I tried to create a foundation to help impact kids with youth sports. And I've always, no pun intended, looked up to Juju. Thought when he was part of the Kansas athletic program, he represented in a big way what KU is all about, what Bill Self is all about, what the whole academics and athletic partnership is all about. And he's gone on to do great things, just like all the different players that have played under Bill Self and his guidance. They just lead themselves into being better men. And that's what sports does for people. And that's what I believe in. I believe sports has a way of transforming people's lives. And that's what we want to do with Sharewaves. So there you go. That's me.
Hold on, I'm jumping in here. They call you Juju?
Yeah. That's my nickname since I was a kid. I don't have a
All right,
problem
let
with
Scott ask you his question, but I'm going to tell you, Scott he's really excited about this. Here we go. Watch Scott Havens.
All right, I was going to do a cheesy segue from Bill, but that's high praise from Bill. I know Bill is very connected to the program. One of my favorite memories of my life is when the power went out in Lawrence because of a tornado. We couldn't watch the Big 12 championship. And at the very end, the power turned on to Julian stealing the ball against Texas, doing a 360 dunk, winning the Big 12 championship, and throwing a giant party. And so I blew the entire social budget that night and had about 1,000 people at a big bonfire on the basketball court where I live. So, Julian, I think a lot of people may not know the early track to your career. So kind of give everyone how you got to Lawrence, and then after Lawrence, where you're going, and then today, what your organization and your company does.
All right. Well, first, I'm humbled and honored to be here on this show today, Drinks for Leaders. Those are kind words from Bill and everyone. I just, I was looking at who was going to be on, and I was really just happy to be a part and to know more about what everyone's doing. For me, shortly, I'm from Chicago, born, but a lot of people there, they say, oh, you didn't stay there. So I moved to the suburbs, 10 minutes. So in case anyone's watching, yes, I moved to the south suburbs of Chicago, Chicago Heights. Funny story, keep it short though. I committed without going on a visit. That spoke a lot about Coach Self as a person. But I also had a little bit of knowledge of him when he was at University of Illinois. So it wasn't just, I wasn't just slobbering over just trying to go to KU. It's like, first off, he kind of showed me a little bit more about what KU was about, the tradition. So, I was getting those mails. Back in the day, we had mail. We didn't have, phones and social media like that, like smartphones, these kids nowadays. But anyway, so I committed before going there because I thought, I wanted to play. One thing he said, I know other coaches that he wouldn't give me minutes. I had to earn them. And that was true. I didn't even play a lot in the first part of my freshman year. I was playing behind the Christian Moody and the Mulai Niang. So, I learned a lot from them. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it started. And I think I started a pipeline, a lot of players from Chicago area going to KU. So that's kind of how I went in a nutshell, not to be too long-winded.
And then after Lawrence, Kansas, where'd you go? And then today, what is your business?
Yeah, so I decided to leave early to play professionally. So I went 13th pick overall in 2007 to the New Orleans Hornets, now called the Pelicans. Played there for 3 years, put the likes of Chris Paul, Pedro Stojakovic, David West, Tyson Chandler, you name it, in terms of veterans. And then I got traded to Toronto with a young team with young DeMar DeRozan, so I was able to see his development. It was a great experience in the NBA. And then I played in the D League, called the G League now, for 1 year. Won a championship there. And then since then, I was playing all around the world, Israel, Russia, Greece, France. I was recently in China, and I thought I was escaping coronavirus. I thought it was like a movie. It was like ghost town. I'm like, I gotta get out of here. And then I got back here. So what I'm doing now is I founded a basketball player development company called A.D.A.P.T Basketball. It stands for Athletic Development and All-Purpose Training, so sports performance, basically how to be a better athlete, which is transferable to many sports. And then all-purpose training is kind of my background. I always learn something from different coaches, and I play an all-around game. And that's, if you look at NBA, WNBA, internationally, you have to play more than one position. So that's been my whole life. So I feel like, hey, this is perfect. Rather than me coach 15, people in one locker room, let me just coach up as many people in person and virtually.
So before we get to the last 30 minutes of the show with live Q&A, we're going to ask everyone about a recent success that they've had for their company or organization. Aaron?
Just so you know, Scott makes us raise our hand if we have a question, in case you wonder why I'm acting like I'm in school. Scott Haven's hardcore rule around here. There are so many people commenting, like so many. This means you have your profile hidden. But I want you guys to know, I know we're going to have a ton of questions. So start putting your questions in there so we can get them answered, because there's so many people watching today. Back to you, Scott.
Maki, what's a recent success story you would share to kind of give everyone a little bit of an idea of what you're trying to accomplish in the business community?
Sure. Well, I think probably my most recent success was just getting my book published and getting a publisher to publish it. So I was very adamant about not wanting to be self-published, not because there's anything wrong with that, but just because I had no idea what I was doing. And I wanted some expertise to be on the other side of that. I wrote the book because I felt really passionately that there are far too many very talented, very successful people who are just not happy. And it's really interesting to me what's been transpiring in the world since that time, because there are so many different things that need our attention in the world right now. I mean, there's so many different causes. There's so many different people who are suffering right now. And my personal experience was when I was in my own misery, that I didn't have the bandwidth that I wanted to have to be helpful or of value to other people. So my most important goal was just to get that information into the hands of other people who felt similarly, so that they can create this space inside of their minds where they feel like they're providing value and that they're living the life they want to live, and they have the energy to give to the other things that matter to them. So to me, it's kind of like my first, I guess, penetration, if you will, into helping kind of a broader business community, because there's so many talented professionals that fit into that description of accomplished, goal-oriented, successful, but not really where they want to be. And if they're not where they want to be, they have very little opportunity to help others get to where they want to be.
Katie,
It's a good book. It's a really good book.
Thanks, Erin.
Katie, for your organization, you would think a lot of what you're doing is helping grow the non-for-profit vertical, even though you have multiple verticals that you serve. A lot of people are wondering how that's going to change. So give everyone kind of an update of your pulse on the non-for-profit world and tell us a recent success story.
Yeah, so I mean, non-for-profits, like every business right now, are changing and needing to be responsive. And I'm trying to like get rid of the word pivot because everybody's saying pivot, but like truly, it's like the best word to describe what's happening, even though it's like completely overplayed. But really, what we're doing right now is helping nonprofits to change direction, change course, rethink how they are communicating with their donors, and how to build relationships when you can't shake hands with your donors, and what is it going to look like now that you can't have events. But there's still really important ways that you can be responsive and create those deep, meaningful relationships with your organizations through, communication and emotional resonance. And so that's what we're doing. And so I would say, a really big win is we've had a lot of studies start going into the field the last 2 or 3 weeks. And so I'm really excited to be able to deliver those results to help people for the last, 6 months of the year. And then also think about what it's going to be for next year. Because I mean, this is not going to be a little bit of a blip for the nonprofit sector. It's going to be, it's definitely a marathon, not a sprint. And so really helping organizations be ahead of the curve of, what's happening. Just for the first quarter of the year, nonprofit giving is down 25%. And if that continues to trend, it's not going to be a banner year for the industry. So there's definitely a lot that we need to be doing to keeping our current donors, but then also expanding reach right now.
Before we segue to Bill, a lot of people don't realize Kansas City has 2.5 million people, 32nd largest metro in the country, 71,000 companies. Non-for-profit is the second largest employer.
Yes, we are.
Know the
12,000
number
nonprofits in Kansas City. There are 12,000 registered nonprofits.
Wow, I didn't know
Does
that.
anyone know the number one employer? It'd be government. So government, then non-for-profit. So fun fact. So Bill, I mean, you have a lot going on. There's so much that has been paused with COVID. Can you tell the audience a little bit about some recent successes for your organization and what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, yeah, it's a struggle. A little over 2 years ago, I started coming up with an idea of trying to bring a foundation to a local organization that has been part of Kansas City for 21 years. Union Broadcasting, 810 WHB, does just an incredible job of localizing sports content, but also giving a national perspective on what's happening. And they didn't have a foundation that was that effective, so we created Sharewaves. Sharewaves is the idea of using our airwaves to do good and to try to promote different causes. We've zeroed in and focused on youth sports as a way to empower young people and also kind of bridge the haves and the have-nots, figure out how to bring sports to the inner city where they are lacking access. So this year was a big year for us. We got our 501c3 finally in December, which is a huge landmark milestone for any organization. Really focused on heavy on events in the first two quarters of this year. All of our events have been canceled. We had a really good relationship with a couple of local businesses, Charlie Hustle and Dimensional Innovations. We were working with some nonprofits, trying to raise money with them using sports as the way to bring people together. And with those being canceled, we had to figure out what to do. And our mission at Sharewaves is to advance opportunities for kids to play sports. So we decided to try to create at-home workouts for kids and do as much virtual reach out and engage with kids, give them some opportunities to see some coaches doing some basic skill development and training at home and what that looks like. We had Bill Self and A lot of other local celebrities. Joel Goldberg helped us out to do some motivational talks and give some insight into what their players are doing to stay ready to play. And so I'm really proud of Ready to Play. It's a whole idea of a campaign of we need to be ready to go when we get back out on the field, that we need to prepare ourselves. We need to take personal responsibility as an athlete. And young people don't hear that enough. And when they are separated from their teams, from their coaches, from their teammates, it's a travesty. It's not just that they're missing the development of their skills, which is important, but they're also missing the social interactions and the life skills that they learn, and how to win and how to lose, and what it takes to be a good teammate. And everything that Juju probably has been captured in his life has been part of his life lessons, have been part of what he's learned from his sports teams. And it's one of those things that I think gets overlooked. And if anyone is a silent victim in this whole COVID crisis, it's the kids at home that are isolated and away from their normal social interaction. And that's where I'm really worried. And that's where I really want to put my energy, my effort, and my money towards trying to make a difference.
And
Julian,
he's former NFL player. I'm guessing he's part of your
Chase.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Chase Kaufman has been part of the board. He's been a consultant. He's a Missouri Tiger, so it's kind of hard. But at the same time, we're all embracing. We want everyone to be a part of this. And one of the most unique things that I've been able to do is Ready to Play Week, where we interviewed different people throughout the city. And I got a chance to interview Chase and his dad together, Paul Kaufman, who is a legend, NFL tight end for the Packers and played for K-State. So we had a Tiger, a Wildcat, and a Jayhawk all together talking about how sports is transformational and how important it is for kids to play sports. So
if you need any other local celebrities that are really involved in the sports world, me and Scott keep pulling all the cool.
I know you do.
So it's now becoming like an ongoing joke because we're friends with Joel Goldberg, and so Joel is amazing. I think he's one of the best speakers in all of Kansas City. Shout out to Chase. He's on Randy Powell's show here coming up on Friday, so please tune into that. Julian, you spoke about it a little briefly about getting out of China and coming back to America and kind of getting away from coronavirus. I know a lot of things are really new to your business, but talk about a recent success that you've had to kind of get the audience an understanding of how they can reach out and grow your business or how they can learn about it.
All right. So the first win was getting out of China. So I'll take a few L's. I was, dodging those L's, but got that out of the way. But one thing about me in my career, I felt like, and I want to encourage people through my own experience. A lot of times you have people put a lot of expectations on you, and at least for me was, even back home, it's like, hey, if I make NBA, I'm supposed to be a star, become an all-star. It's like, but how many people become all-stars? How many people become the VP or the let's say CEO of, the biggest corporation, Fortune 300 or 4, whatever the case is. I learned early on, especially playing in the D League and becoming a champion there, playing in multiple countries, were a couple of things where I defined my own career, and I enjoyed actually that I got a chance to do both. I got to play NBA and international, see the world. And so one thing I did see was that a lot of the kids were underserved when it came to quality instruction. In terms of, there's a few kids who are they call them clubs. Out here it's like AAU. They kind of do like, 14 under, all the way up to 20 under. So, that's a select few, but there's still a lot of people who have interest, and sometimes just the knowledge or, just not anyone pushing them or giving them that edge. So when I started my business, I'm based in the Charlotte area, but I always kept the world in mind, honestly. So the win for me was taking my business to be virtual. And in light of COVID-19, another thing that I did, I'm gonna use that word pivot. It's funny pivot, as an athlete, we pivot, and so I had to pivot the business and to think about a lot of the kids have now learned, they've gotten into blended learning. I have daughters, so she's in 7th grade. She's printing off work or doing things with Google Docs. I mean, that's what grown-ups are normally doing, collegiate students. So now kids and parents both know that they're able or capable of learning without a human in front of them at an early age. So what we're doing online is we started Academy, which is a big win because we're starting off just getting it out there, where people are able to. We're doing curriculum-based instruction for basketball. So it's not just throw some cones out there, whatever the case is. We give them DIY workouts. We hope we try to encourage the parents to reinforce the things we're teaching for the younger kids. For older kids, hey, kind of DIY. You got to work through this thing. Self-discipline is now becoming something that younger kids have to now kind of deal with while we're still figuring out this online type thing. So, we homeschooled our daughter for 3 years. So I got a lot of that. I want to kind of mix the e-learning, ed tech, sports tech with our, a lot of the technology that we do use to help teach the game of basketball.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do this, but we're on live on my phone and the show, so this is fun. All right, I know we got tons of questions.
Oh, we have so many questions. So if you still have questions, put them here because I haven't picked out my favorites yet. But what's kind of cool is we have questions for everybody. So Julian, a few people know you on here, but you just answered, so I'm going to come back to those. But I will tell you, Julian said, I'm going to invite everyone I know. I want to tell you, Startland is watching, so I know they're big fans of everybody on here. There was a question on here, Maki, for you that I am just looking for real quick. This was a fun fact for everybody. I didn't know that, so thank you for sharing that, Katie. Maki. Mm-hmm. How would you suggest an individual take the leap of leaving their current situation to find their true passion in their career?
Great question.
It's a loaded one. It's a good one. I think sometimes people put too much pressure on themselves to go from where they are to pursuing a passion. So I would say the first thing to do is to get really, really clear about what you're doing right now that does not work for you. What do you not like about your current situation? What are the elements of things that you do enjoy that you can focus on? Because I think sometimes we get so miserable that we just think everything sucks and there's nothing good about our situation, or we haven't learned anything, when that's usually not true. So the most important thing you can do, honestly, is to tune in to your own mind and listen to what you're saying to yourself, listen to how you feel about certain things as you're going through your day. We don't really commute anymore, but if you're sitting in a meeting and it's driving you crazy and you can't stand being in that environment, that's something to tune into. If you're talking to yourself about, you know what, I don't feel motivated, or it's Sunday and I'm dreading going back to work, these are the things to pay attention to. So there's always a lot of autopiloting kind of self-chatter that's going on that we don't really listen to. And it's as you start to listen to that and start to get really clear on what you don't want, so you can start to form what you do want and then take the steps towards that will open the doors for you to identify something that you do feel passionate about or that you really enjoy. And the key is to consistently show up, because this is not something you're undoing a lot of programming that you've been operating with. You've got to show up every day and spend this time with yourself. And then know that, if you apply yourself for just a few minutes a day, it actually is an exponentially powerful exercise. Like, you will find yourself growing in these huge ways that aren't tied to the amount of time that you're spending. So the first thing is to give yourself that space, and then to also give yourself permission to figure out what you want, because what you don't want is to run away from your current situation. You want to move with intention towards what you're creating. And that takes some discipline and kind of pumping the brakes on trying to jet from a situation.
That's a phenomenal answer. I'm actually, Maki and I are really, really good friends. And I'm going to tell you, if everyone needs a Maki in their life, because I'll call to complain about something. She's like, let's break it down. Is this something you really want to do? Like, I'm like questioning happy hours now. And I'm like, nah, I want to do this. So,
you know what? I will say to someone that 100% of what I do is business development. Happy hours should be spent with those you want to truly learn and benefit from. You shouldn't approach it as a business, meaning of new revenue. It's something where you're unwinding, unplugging, and learning. But it took me a long time in my career and a double chin to realize that you don't really need happy hours. 3 coffees are way more beneficial in 3 different meetings. So it's a good thing to bring up.
Okay, so Katie, Jeff gave us a fun fact. I just thought this was really interesting.
Jeff and I were hanging out today.
Oh, well, you must have been
Yeah.
At your new fancy house with that fancy painting? Is that
no,
where
it's not that one. But yeah, Jeff's coming on the show to talk about Leadership Kansas. But Good question. Good plug.
This
All
was
right, go ahead.
awesome. The reason the UMKC Block School of Management isn't just called a business college is because of the government, nonprofit, and private leadership makeup of KC employers. So I thought that was awesome and a good segue into this question for Katie. Katie, Miss Alex says, what advice would you give young women entering the corporate or nonprofit world?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think the number one question that I would say is invest in yourself. Don't expect anybody else to invest in you. You need to take the lead of your own career first. So when I first started out, I took 2% of my salary every year and put it into a fund and took classes, anything that I wanted to do that I wouldn't ask my company to pay for. So if they said no, that they wouldn't pay for something, I would just do it on my own. So I've always put in to it like a fund, and 1 to 2% of your salary, that can be a lot and can really help you. But so you need to definitely invest in yourself first. Not have the expectation that others are going to do that, but seek out those who will. I am a huge believer that you need to be helping people that are below you and looking to people that are above you in the career at all times. And you should be, helping everyone as much as you can. I think, the go-giver mindset is truly how we live. And so I think it's, even if it's 5 minutes, I think you need to give people time. But, when you go in, whether it's the nonprofit sector, the corporate sector, find your people, find your tribe, find the cheerleaders, and, invest in yourself and don't listen to the naysayers.
I love that. All right, Bill, you ready for this one?
Sure. Bring it.
What is the silver lining to this COVID cloud? I like that. In the nonprofit sector, do you find?
Well, that's a tough one.
I asked you if you were ready.
There is an amazing amount of community that has risen up, where we've had to lean on each other, invest time and energy into understanding how this is impacting all of us as a nonprofit sector. This idea of how you get virtual, how you do a virtual event, how are we going to handle, not gathering and having a fundraising, element, a fund need type of thing at a live event was a very scary thing. And I think as different nonprofits have gone through the virtual event process, they're finding out that they can engage with their donors. They can initiate funding through those relationships. That people are willing to step back in and be a part of something, whether it be virtual or knowing that live is not possible. And that has created a lot of opportunities for different nonprofits to ask each other how they're doing, what this and that, and what's working, what's not working, and what's best practice. And so I think that one of the things that has been good about COVID in the nonprofit sector, just this idea that we're all sharing a lot of information about how it's going to work for us and partnering together to get stuff done. There's a lot of collaboration going on. So,
well, see, you answered. You did a good job. It wasn't even that hard for you.
Well,
I love that answer.
I have spent a lot of time in this nonprofit world. I did a radio show called KC Cares for about 4 years, and we interviewed nonprofits and talked with them about what they were doing. And all of them are looking for more exposure, like more, tell my story, talk more about what we're doing. And what COVID's given them a chance to do is really highlight the best parts of their story, be able to put them into elevator pitches and get them out there in bite-sized pieces that people can really get a big, clear picture of what it is that they are all about. And in the past, they may have neglected that because they were so busy doing their activities to get people together and bring events together. They weren't thinking about how to write a little post about to tell who they are or what they are. So I think nonprofits have gotten much more digital in this stage of COVID too.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that. 2 years ago, KC Cares had me on to talk about LinkedIn, and the guy co-host called in sick that day. Didn't know that was you.
Part of it then. But, yeah.
All right, Julian has a couple questions on here, but there's one that this is the first time this has ever happened where someone's asked a question and everyone's just paying attention to this. They're like, that's a great question. So I'm so excited about this. So get ready, Julian. Pressure's on. This is everyone's most impressed with this question ever. All right, Julian, regarding youth athletes, you see a lot of kids that specialize. What are your thoughts about specializing versus multi-sport athletes?
It looks like Bill wants to chime in first. Oh, you co-signing that question too?
Oh no, you go.
Oh, got it. Okay, so one thing about me and I started A.D.A.P.T basketball. One thing about another part of you think about a dictionary, it's we use technology as well. Kids, adults, it doesn't matter anyone, any spectrum now, demographics, technology is the next wave. So one thing I would say about that is we're using the technology to specialize, meaning to give them the right feedback so that we can make better assessments. I don't think there's a problem with specializing. I say that it needs to be, you can't really put an actual age on it, but I say a good rule of thumb is about 12 years old. That's kind of our philosophy. I think the kid is past discovery stage. They may have played a few years. I grew up playing a lot of sports. Heck, I was scoring. I was 6'5" and 180. I played football for a little bit, and then my freshman year. So I mean, I tried. I think it's important for kids to try many things, even outside of sports. Other arts and crafts. They have a short childhood, but I think that as long as they're working on multiple sports, they should be better off because they're giving sometimes some muscles a break. A guy, Baxter Holmes, who's written for ESPN, put out a great article about that. Even highlighting Zion Williamson and different people who had a lot of injuries. These kids are playing AAU at 7, 8 years old. I didn't start playing until I was 14. And so even Kobe came out, Kobe's talking about 16 is when he really started to play, take it serious. So I think that, there's pressure, you're going to be good enough when you're at that point. And I think that's not until you're 16, 17. I say specialize when the kid is able to make a decision as well, not the parents pressuring them. Let them play as many sports as they can. We're looking to scale our business eventually, use technology to be able to get into other sports and be adapt sports. So I want to be about multiple sports. It was easy to start a business in my lane, but that's what we want to do. And it's not, many clients can do many sports within a few years to scale the business.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Bill, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a pretty important question that's asked, and youth sports is haunted by specialization, but it's hard as a parent when you have a talented young man or woman that is gifted in a sport. You want them to get the best and develop and achieve the greatest level of that they can get to. So the one thing that specialization can do is it can burn a kid out. The pressure, pushing them into one sport and having it just be the one thing that they do. But if you're uniquely gifted in that sport, then it's hard to steer you away from trying to get you the special help you need to achieve high levels. But it's been proven, the studies are really clear. Kids who do multi-sports end up with the potential to have $500 million contracts, like Patrick Mahomes. He played 3 different sports all through high school, and that was his deal. And it just developed all kinds of different motor skills that serve him as a professional. And I'm not saying that everybody that does multiple sports can sign a huge $500 million deal, but he's the poster child of it. Go ahead, Julian.
LeBron James, a lot of people, he played football. A lot of people don't even think about what, it's like overshadowed because of how great he is as a player in basketball, but it's showing you Michael Jordan, it just goes on and it just shows you they play baseball. that's a great point.
Yeah.
All right, ladies, let's stop talking about sports just for a second.
I just love the fact that we're a business show. We do so much sports, and then Joel Goldberg, who's wonderful, does sports and does a ton of business. So it's interesting how people can intersect and overlap.
We're all living our dreams. We're all living our dreams. Okay, I love this question. Hayden, you're welcome for the invite. I don't know who invited you, but I'm happy you're here. As a female business owner, and I want to both of Maki, from you go working at corporate, and Katie, all the things you do. She's curious, as for other females, what is your best piece of advice for upcoming stars in a male populated industry? And you two are stars, so take it.
It's a good question. So I think one of the hardest things to do, I worked in a male-dominated industry, is to maintain your authenticity and not allow the criticism of other people to be internalized, basically. A lot of the times we get criticized because we're not fitting into a stereotype, or people just wish you wouldn't speak up as much, even though you see examples of men doing the behaviors that you're being asked to stop doing. And I think it's incredibly important to just acknowledge for yourself, am I being authentic in this moment? And if it makes other people uncomfortable, I'm okay with that, and continue to be who you are and to show up in the way that you show up. Because the last thing you want to do is to be a rising star in a way that requires you to compromise who you are, how you show up, and to fit into this little box that other people are comfortable with, when it's you showing up as yourself that really makes you the rising star and that makes you effective in a later position. You just have to be willing to be who you are, and be okay with the fact that other people aren't okay with who you are. I think that's one of the most important things that you can do. And then to recognize a situation, if it becomes toxic, if it becomes something that really is inappropriate on some level, the level of feedback that you're getting or the kind of feedback you're getting, to be willing to do what's right for you in that moment as well, and to not just stick it out and stick around and compromise on your own mental health and well-being in order to make it to a certain level, to do what works for you. Because I promise you, if you are a rising star and you are being yourself, if you are in a place that does not support that, there is a place that will, and you do not have to stay there.
Katie, let's pivot the question. Hold on. Somebody said this awesome thing. I'm trying to find it, but essentially they were saying that pivot was just the word. I'll find it at some point and throw it up here. But let's pivot the question just a little bit, because you and I have had this conversation even a little bit more in depth, where sometimes it's even hard if you are working with a lot of women too, right? Especially in nonprofit world, a lot of times it's very heavily dominated by women. So just as a rising star, let's make the question for you as a rising star overall. What's the best way to kind of overcome obstacles?
I think that's a great question. I would like to point out, though, that while nonprofit is predominantly female dominated, like still most CEOs in the nonprofit sector are male CEOs. So there still kind of is a little bit of a ceiling there. So what I would say is whether you're working with men, women, whoever, in order to, again, kind of develop what you're interested in and be, have empathy. I think empathy, no matter where you are, is just incredibly important. I think we need to bring a little bit more empathy back into business, to be quite honest with you, because everyone, kind of shows up where they are, but also relentless pursuit. I am a huge believer of relentless pursuit. There are naysayers around you, block them out. I mean, everyone's got an opinion, but I think one of my favorite quotes is never take advice from someone you wouldn't want to change places with. And so you really need to surround yourself with the people that are your cheerleaders. It's always good to have somebody that can challenge you, but also not crush you at the same time. So seek out those people and, put your head down and grind. Like, I think that's one of the, the biggest things is sometimes we get so focused on what's the next step, instead of mastering what we're doing right now. Master what you're doing right now and then take the next step. The next step's going to be there, but you really need to be ready for it.
Good answer. And I popped your boss up on there so that.
Yeah, what you're not seeing is all the, harassment.
She's standing right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
One more thing. It's hard to be successful, and I can't imagine what it's like to be challenged because of your gender or the color of your skin. I just know that it's really hard, and you have to keep, perseverance is kind of that word that you have to just keep driving forward, just like Katie and Maki said, and pushing your talents out in front and leading with your gut and your intuition. And obviously that's something that, females seem to have more intuition than males. I'm not trying to, make anything, profound or anything, but it's that special magic that happens in any company where you get the right people in the right room around the right table doing the right things, and that's where that's what we all want out of life. And I'm sure more people can expound on that. But I wanted to reiterate that.
It's going to seem weird that I'm going to ask you this question, but I want to hear from a white male's perspective on this answer. And we're going to segue over into a couple questions regarding equity. Okay. So Bill, I'm going to ask you this question, and then Julian, I've got another one for you. If I didn't preface it like that, it might be weird I'm asking Bill, but I think it's important that we all understand from a white male in nonprofit world, the answer to this based off of everything we just talked about. What is done in regards to equity and expanding the donor base of small minority-led organizations?
So, I think peer-to-peer fundraising is a really important piece of the puzzle through COVID, through this virtual world we're now living in, challenging donors to find other donors to come in and help row the boat with us, be a part of the team that's going to try to, get the mission, achieved and push us across the goal line, and all of those great, metaphors that sports gives us. But, it is an interesting question. In terms of minority-led nonprofits, there's a number of incredible nonprofits. I'm thinking of Harris Park in the heart of Kansas City, an incredible facility for par 3 golf course that Chris Harris has spent 24 years of his life building an inner city park for kids just to be able to engage with them. And he is hungry for donors, just seeking out people to help him so he can duplicate this in other cities and do this across the country. And it is, we're all in this together. We all need to tell each other stories and share in what it means to help promote other people, no matter the color of their skin or their gender or what their religious beliefs or whatever it is that drives them. We're all trying to do good. We're all trying to leave it better than we found it, and we've kind of messed it up a little bit. I'm taking personal responsibility. I know I have a lot I need to change about the way I think about life, and I know that the better I can do, the better we all can do.
Awesome. Thank you for that answer. I'm going to tell you right now, we're not going to get to all the questions. This is why I tell y'all to get on here early and ask your questions. I give preface to the earlier questions, but I want to end with this question because that'll put us right at time. But I would imagine it's cool with everyone if we tag you and people can connect and reach out if they have any others. Okay, so here's the deal. It's going to cover your face when I ask the question because the longer questions people ask, not you, Scott, anyone on the bottom row, mostly Julian, because it's for you. It's going to cover all your faces, and then I'll take it down when I'm done reading. All right, get ready. Julian, it almost covered us. In light of the current racial tensions across the country and around the world, we see a lot of athletes creating amazing individual ventures and companies as much as Black communities fight for equality. What are your perspectives on an increased solidarity, God, he made lots of big words, among Black athletes who definitely combine a substantial wealth and could make a significant impact if coming together, even as a very small contribution to launch a collective platform that could fund and support the next. Thanks, Val. That was very tough for me, but I love the question. All right, I'm going to take it down so you can answer it. It's over here on the right if you need.
Yeah. So what I can say to that is, I've had conversations with the NBA, especially during the lockout, because I was a representative for the Toronto Raptors during that lockout. Where players, that was probably one of the first things I heard a lot of players in different locker rooms talking about, hey, let's put some money together although it was preliminary, and you can call it almost elementary or whatever the case is, and they started to do, they put on some games where they play for free, and while they could risk injury. If you look at some new YouTube clips, and they're playing, and it wasn't like as hard as like they were trying to shape, but just kind of making it free access. You see what's going on now with COVID-19. A lot of people are just being more accessible. I think that's important. There, just a lot of people are doing Instagram Live and jumping on with each other. I thought it was a good thing to see a lot of people building with each other and just being accessible. I think there's been a gap at times where athletes, let's say Black athletes, have money to be on the same page. Though I think a lot of people have their foundations, they have a lot of things going on, and I think the solidarity would have to come from the standpoint of I would say people, maybe one organization saying, hey, we're all going to put our force the issue with this one organization, kind of as an umbrella, because I know a lot of athletes have their own foundations. They're all kind of doing their own things in their own cities or hometowns, whatever the case is. So I think it's a fairy tale. And let me say that is because I think it's not always about a big conglomeration. I think everyone should be doing their own part at the end of the day. But to answer that question, the best way I can say, without it being too political, I think that it should just be a lot of athletes trying to come together to do better than, do things in that way of synergy. I don't think that it just causes for, because then it's going to be like, what about, it's going to be like this percentage of athletes who don't do that. And then it's like, oh, they're the ones who are sellouts. This or that. I just think that, yes, what we're seeing going on is a lot of, even certain issues with different things going on in the country and around the world is bringing a lot of knowledge to what's going on. And that's showing me that I think the currency is more important than the money itself, is accessibility and actually showing that they want to be down for certain causes. Right. I think that's more important, because even for me, it's not like money can't be everything, because I'm hearing things about a lot of things like that's not going to be the issue at the end of the day. I think it's accessibility. It can just be people giving their time more in their community, giving advice, doing an Ask Me Anything or a certain topic, and just really just giving them, the good, the bad, in between. So kids or people who are watching, who may look up to them, they can understand the vulnerability. Lastly, like the players are talking about mental health in sports. And a lot of times 20 years ago, people were like, you make so much money, you don't have problems. But they're trying to connect. They're saying, hey, look, it doesn't matter how much money I make or not. So someone who's dealing with some things in the mental health space, whether they're an athlete or not, that's a way to connect there. And that had nothing to do with money. So I think every athlete should just, whether it's black, white, whatever, should just think about what can they do from a social standpoint, to kind of gear people up so they can think about everyone's making their own difference, and then maybe there be some synergy with two or three people doing certain similar causes.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, good answer. Okay.
One more thing.
Yes.
This was just announced today. LA has put together an alliance of all their major sports teams, and they're committed to bringing a level the playing field to for youth sports in the inner city, and it's called the Alliance LA or Alliance Los Angeles. It's 10 different major league sports franchises. All of the LA sports franchises have committed to a 5-year plan to try to bring together some sort of level the playing field. And I just thought that was interesting that you had that question, and there is, some momentum around this bringing together resources and trying to make differences. But I think Julian's right. It does start with all these individuals just finding out what they want to get accomplished and what they can do with their resources to make a difference.
Well, thank you everyone for coming on. I want to go through real quick and tell people what's the best way to connect with you, and like where to get your books, all your fancy things that everybody has. So Maki, let's start with you and we'll just go around.
Well, you can go to my website, and it's on my LinkedIn profile, so that's probably the easiest, and you'll see a link to my book. You'll see, you can follow me on social anywhere that I'm at, and love to hear from anybody that had a question that didn't get answered.
And you're launching a YouTube channel. When does that launch?
I am. My plan is to launch it in August, but we will see if I'm able to stay on that course, but that is the plan. It will definitely be this year.
Yeah, Maki, we had to plug you on the book on the YouTube channel. You got to let us talk for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. I will let you know.
All right, Miss Katie.
All right. Well, I'm ordering Maki's book. I was like, yes. Okay. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, or, you can go to the Proof website. We've got my email on there. So proofpositioning.com. And I would love to connect and help in any way that I can for anybody. Thank you for the opportunity. It was so great to sit with everyone else. I learned so much.
Absolutely. Bill, you're up.
Sharewaves foundation.org is our website. It's Sharewaves. We share our airwaves. We're trying to advance opportunities for kids to play sports throughout Kansas City. So that's what we're all about.
Awesome. Julian? There's a lot of people asking to connect with you. So
okay. First, I want to connect with everyone on here. It's absolutely an amazing time. Learning a lot about the nonprofit space and also just empowerment, just in terms of, people with different backgrounds, just really looking to do better for themselves, and then, like you said, then reach down and help others and things like that. It's pretty simple for me. A.D.A.P.T basketball, ADAPTbasketball.com. And from there, you can just go down that rabbit hole. But the main thing we're pushing, our staff is our online academy. So basically, it's curriculum based. We have a virtual clipboard. Basically, it's, we have a lot of technology that we infuse with our teaching. Lastly, my DMs are open. So if you know where I'm at.
What did athlete say?
Business inquiries. The idea is I want to connect as well. People person. I like to hear about so many different new, like this COVID-19 has helped a lot of people just pivot, think about money for themselves or for the organization. So it's a pleasure. Thank you all for having me.
Well, you're our first guest to ever say your DMs are open, but I think Scott and I are going
to I said business inquiries.
All right. And if you want to get a hold of Scott and I, text Drinks with Leaders. We'll always let you know. I was trying to make it a surprise. Julian was coming on the show a couple of weeks and trying to get people to text in, but Scott said on the show. But he has direct orders now, not allowed to say it anymore. So we've got some other exciting guest books. So text us here and you'll be the first to know. Thank you all for coming on, and have a great day and jump on next week. Same time, same place.